Welcome everybody to the A Little Less Fear podcast. I'm your host for the show, Dr. Lino Martinez. Oh yeah. Welcome back, everybody, to the Little Less Fear podcast. Today, I'm really happy to introduce our guest. Her name is Samantha Fox, and she's a sexuality coach. You know what the interesting story about this is that we were following each other on Instagram. I didn't even realize it until I saw her, and I was like, "Oh man, I know who I'm going to be talking to." And I warmed up my hands and was happy to happy to hit play. So here we are with Samantha Fox. I want to make sure that I'm have your pronouns correct, and I'm using she. Is that correct?
Yes, she, her, yes.
Awesome. Well, welcome to A Little Less Fear podcast. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. So I am a marriage and family therapist. I've been in private practice for about 12 years, and I also coach women coming out later in life. So I love helping women on this journey from possibly having no idea about their sexuality and just thinking there's something wrong with them because they're just not feeling it with guys, to being fully embodied and fully out as whatever they want to identify as. So that's a very short nugget of about me.
I really appreciate what you do. I don't know how many people tell you this, but thank you so much for doing what you do to help women, empower women to come out and embody who they really are from the inside and out. I guess I'm curious, what came first, marriage and family therapy or being a sexuality coach? Or
So first, before all of that, came my life experience of this, where I came out later in life. And from that point in time, I went back to school and got my master's degree to become a therapist. And as soon as I was licensed as a therapist, I started advertising for a group called Curious Questioning and Coming Out, which is the name of my
your
coaching
website?
program. Yeah. And so that's been in place for many years now. It's over 12 years. So they kind of came together. I would say my interest in working with couples and, dynamics and relationships had a lot to do also with sexuality. So I've always been interested in sexuality and helping people with sexuality, even in my therapy practice, sex therapy, working with couples. Kind of all together, but the coaching program for women coming out later has really come together in the last year.
How did that come together?
Well, as I said, so since 2010, I've had a group on my website, on my therapy website, called Curious Questioning and Coming Out.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had women contacting me over the last 12 years, wanting to be part of this group, wanting to explore their sexuality. And I live in New York City, so I was limited to only working with people that were in New York City. And I was
That
having
is
a really
limiting.
Yeah. So it was limiting, and I also had a very thriving practice, and I was having a hard time finding space. Like, where am I going to do the group? How am I going to make this happen? I'm going to have to give up therapy time to make it. So it all got very confusing, and I really struggled. I took a lot of those women into my private practice and worked with them. So I still worked with many people, but I just wasn't running the group. And then over the course of the pandemic, all of a sudden, all my work switched to being online. I was seeing all of my clients online. And I realized, oh, wow, I can actually work with women globally as a coach, now, and I can make this happen. And so I just started to put together lessons and modules and, ways to work through this that I knew would help women, and videos. And I started just getting out onto Instagram and marketing myself, and it's come together beautifully.
It sounds beautiful. I know back when I was identified as a lesbian and I was in my 20s, 30s, the only way for women to get together was like Dinah Shore or like all women weekends, but it really wasn't therapeutic. It was more of a hookup place, you know?
Yeah.
And it to me, I mean, looking now that I'm 42, I really wish I would have had a therapeutic model or module or modality to help me through it. And be happier that way with myself inside and out and in public. It just yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially now with the internet, it's just pretty awesome that you can get so many people together all at once.
It really is. And it's great. It's women from all over and from different countries. And, we navigate the time zones and whatnot. But it's just amazing to see, women really worldwide struggle with this and really suffer from not knowing and not having the choice to be who they are. And so I feel very lucky. I love this work. I get so much out of it. It's like having come full circle for me to be able to give back to the community in this way.
Susan, how do you handle when a female tells you, you know what, I'm in my 50s now and I've never liked being with men and now I'm curious. What happens when you get the curious question?
Yeah, I mean, I love the curious question because I always say everything starts with curiosity, right? It's
True.
when we don't have any curiosity, that's when we're really stuck. So if someone's curious, that's actually where I start my program, is with curiosity. And what does curiosity mean to you? And what did you learn about curiosity growing up? And
Wow, that's a really, really good question.
yeah.
I don't think I've ever asked anybody that question. I guess, where does curiosity take you, right?
Yeah, and a lot of people learn that, being curious is dangerous. Like, don't ask too many questions, don't make other people uncomfortable. When you're little and you're a little kid and you notice things happening in your home, but you don't understand them and you're curious and you start to ask questions, sometimes you get shut down, you get sent to your room,
Yeah.
you get shamed. And
Right.
so we quickly learn that being curious is really unsafe. And so we're not curious and we go through life not asking questions. And this is very problematic. So I love when women are in their 50s or 60s, whatever age they're at, and they're curious, they're already taking one step out onto this path.
Hmm. You know, what's interesting is I have met some women that have said, well, I'm not a lesbian, but there's this one girl that I would. Have you had people ask those questions and then maybe does that confuse their sexuality after that? Or how do you even follow up with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where kind of the labels come in, right? Where people are kind of like, I one time I had a crush on somebody, but I'm straight, and it's like, okay, well, if you had a crush on somebody, straight people don't have crushes that have romantic or sensual sexual feelings toward other genders. So, let's just say you're not straight. And I mean, depending on the person, that a lot of people can accept the not straight, especially women. I think women are a little bit easier to, I don't know, just accept that there is fluidity in their sexuality. I believe there also is a lot of fluidity for men, right? It's not just a
Absolutely.
female thing.
Right.
It's a human thing. But
Exactly. It is a human thing.
yeah. So I think, for women who identify as straight but had something once upon a time with a woman, great. You're not all the way at the far extreme of the heterosexual scale. You're maybe a little bit in, right? You're not 100% straight.
Right.
So, and I think there can be space for that too. So I invite people to kind of see what that feels like for them.
What is the biggest struggle that you have with your clients?
So
The
a lot of
biggest
the
common
women,
struggle.
yeah, a lot of the women I work with, I really specialize in is for women who are coming out after marriage. So they are married to a man, they have children, they have a family, and now they're realizing, uh-oh, I'm not straight and
Mhm.
maybe I'm gay, and yes, I am gay,
Oh
right? Or
yeah, that
some.
is. I can definitely see how that would be a struggle. I've met women that way, and it seems even more of a struggle when they're married to a quote unquote good man and they don't want to
Yes.
hurt them, so they stay with them in order to I guess, compromise. But when you do that, they actually weigh themselves down and become more unhappy and make everybody unhappy because they're not being their true authentic self. Is that what you're finding?
Yes. And
What kind of
so
advice do
much.
you give that? I wouldn't even know honestly what kind of advice to give in that. I think I would just listen and be of support. I wouldn't know what to say. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's so much about like a thing that you can say, but I think it's about really making space for somebody to process and feel all of the feelings that come with this realization. And if they do have a good man, I've actually worked with a number of women who have such good men, such great husbands, that they work through this together. They are a team, they collaborate. I've had women's husbands find me and tell them that they need to work with me.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
So
awesome.
yeah, it's really awesome. And you know, and just seeing how people exit the box of compulsory monogamy and start to open up their marriage because they are married and they do have kids. And you know, so this can happen, right? There are really good
Oh yes,
men.
it's happening.
Right. It's happening. And but there's a lot of guilt and a lot of shame, but mostly guilt. I would say guilt for it's my fault. I'm tearing apart my family. I'm ruining my husband's life. I've wasted all of these years, you know, for him. You know, now he's 45, 50, and we've been together for 25 years. And now what? Now he's single and just tons of guilt. So, you know, I kind of just make a lot of space for feeling all the feelings of loss and grief
It
that
is grief.
come through this process, tons of grief, even though they want to be able to be their authentic self and they want to be embodied in who they are and they want to live that life. And there's something about that that feels super exciting. There's also tons of sadness and grief and letting go and loss. And it's like something is dying and it's your past and it's the relationship that you knew and the life that you had. And I know because I went through it myself. It is very, very painful. So, you know, but also if there's like something to tell somebody, I would think, you know, a lot of women say he's such a great guy. I know I'm not into him that way, but I just can't tell him because it's going to break his heart. It's like, you're not doing him any favor if you can't love him that way because another woman can.
Exactly. Yeah,
So,
not and only that, and the more you stay in the closet, the more you're hurting yourself, and the more that's going to vibrate to your family. They're going to see how unhappy they are, or you are, or whoever it is, in that situation. It's just
yes.
actually making that step. That's tough, Susan.
Yeah, Samantha.
I'm so sorry, Samantha.
That's okay.
Oh my goodness. You know, it's really hard to wear hearing aids with the
Headphones.
headphones. It is because
Yeah,
there's a feedback loop that happens to that. So sorry about that.
that's okay.
So what do you find helps when you're in that situation where you're speaking to some women that were in the similar situation that you actually went through yourself? Do you tell them right away, this is exactly what I went through, or do you just kind of keep it with them? I mean, how do you come out to your clients?
Yeah, so that's one of the really exciting parts about being a coach
Yeah.
is that as a coach, I can just be 100%
Say
myself. I don't
yourself.
have to hide anything.
Yeah.
And as a therapist, you know, I'm not hiding things, but I'm certainly not promoting them and sharing them freely. I will share if I think it benefits my client. But yeah, so, you know, it's interesting to just see some of my clients have found my Instagram or my TikTok. And so, well, uh-oh, you know. So, but yes, I'm very out. I live a very out life. And, you know, and at the end of the day, if people don't want to work with me because of my history, that's okay. Cause then I'm probably not the right therapist for them anyway. So,
So your life has changed pretty drastically from coming out.
oh, yeah,
Do you mind sharing your coming out story?
sure. Yeah, let's see how I can make it, you know, not too long. So let's see. So I met my husband when I was about 25. Um, and we had a big age difference. He was 16 years older than me. And we actually worked together. So by the time I was 27, we got married, and I very quickly, within 6 months, had twins. Got
Wow.
pregnant with twins, I should say. Got pregnant with twins. Um, and while I was pregnant with them, that was the first time I had any awareness that I might be gay.
Wow. While you were pregnant?
Yeah, yeah,
Whoa.
yeah. So I was about 5 months pregnant. I was in graduate school at NYU, going for my master's, and they brought a woman in to talk about human development. It was a human development class, and they brought a woman in to talk about coming out. She was 21, to tell her coming out story. We were doing sexuality, and I started to have an internal reaction when she started to tell her story. And I was, like I said, I was about 5 months pregnant with twins. So I didn't know what was happening inside, but it was like there was like a gymnastics competition happening inside of me.
Yeah, your
And
heart rate started palpitating, you started sweating, and
yeah, everything. I
wow.
mean, everything. It was like somersaults, in the air, happening inside of me. And I just very quickly shut it down and really disconnected from it. I
Yeah,
would
well, you
say,
probably really didn't understand it either, especially being pregnant. Is this my pregnancy or is this normal for being pregnant? Wow, what a how confusing that must have been for you.
yeah, I mean, I didn't even take that much time to think about how confusing it was. It was just like, whatever's happening, it's
Shut
not
down.
okay. This has got to go. Like, I am pregnant with twins, 5 months pregnant with twins. So I really just shut it down. I locked it up. Like, it was super in the closet.
Wow.
Um, and then I had two wonderful boys. And then I got
Congratulations.
pregnant again and had another child. I had a daughter, and it was, she was about 18 months old when 9/11 happened. And there was something about 9/11 for me that was my catalyst. Um,
Oh.
yeah. In the same way that I think COVID has been a catalyst for many, many women.
Mhm.
So for me, I was in New York City. My children were babies. My husband then was traveling extensively. He was away many months out of the year traveling for work. And I was very lonely. And, we had a very good working relationship and partnership in terms of like parenting and household, running households and things like that,
A
but
good
not
structure, huh?
very structured, but not so much in terms of like intimacy. We always struggled in that area. So 9/11 happened, and it was the thing that just shook me up and said, you might not be here tomorrow. And I was 32 at the time, and I just didn't know, I mean, it just kind of shook me up and just said, like, you're not happy. Who knows how long you're going to be here? You've got to do something, like, all internal. And I just kind of opened my eyes to the outside world in a way. Like, I kind of opened up in a way to look around outside of me. And I ended up meeting somebody that I ended up having a relationship with for 6 years. That summer after 9/11. And she also had never been with a woman. So we were each other's first, but I met her. I had no idea that I was attracted to her in any kind of a sensual, romantic way. I just knew I was obsessed with her. And I even went so far as to come home and tell my husband at the time that I was obsessed with her, because I did not know that it was anything. I didn't know what was happening, actually.
Yeah,
And
just intense
so
emotions without really knowing even how to express it, any other way to express it, because you'd never even been there before.
exactly. So it just really, it just knocked me over, and I couldn't
Right,
see
sure.
straight. And so yeah, it was kind of like this very quick catalyst that just really like threw me for a loop. And within a very short time, I would say 2 months after that, I had told him that I wasn't going to be able to stay in the marriage.
Mhm.
So it all happened very quickly. though the actual divorce itself the separation and divorce took 3 years, during which we lived together with the kids. And that was very difficult. And then, I moved on and moved out and got a second home for me and the kids, and, finished my education and went back to work and whatnot. But I mean, it was really quite something.
Oh yeah, sounds like it. And how do
Yeah.
you feel now? How's everything now?
I mean, fabulous,
Yeah, you're definitely gleaming. I see your
Yeah.
bright light all around you.
Yeah. No, it's really, I mean, it's been quite a journey. And I always say it's not one for the faint of heart. I mean, it takes a lot of work. And of course, depending on your situation, right? If you have an amazing guy who is going to collaborate with you and work with you and make sure you guys are both great and set up for life to be best friends and family forever, but also go on to have other relationships, that's amazing. That was not my situation. I always say my situation was not Glennon Doyle-esque. It wasn't pretty. It was messy, and it stayed messy. And it's okay, but it's not, it's not great. It was never great how the whole thing went down. And it was difficult, but now it's okay. Like, I lived through it. I survived. I thrived. My kids are great. He's super happy. He's been married for 10 years or more to somebody else. And, it all worked out in the end, and it was absolutely worth it. And I would do it all again if I had to.
Thank you for sharing that, by the way. It's an incredible story. How, you mentioned that the pandemic has been a catalyst. How has it been a catalyst for other women? How have you seen this unfold?
Yeah.
I
I
can
mean, I
imagine
just,
how, but I'd like to hear it from you.
yeah, I mean, honestly, it just, it was an interesting, sort of occurrence. I noticed on Instagram, suddenly all of these pages were popping up for late life lesbians, that had like thousands and thousands and thousands of followers on them, but like the person who started the Instagram account had come out like 3 months ago. And then all of a sudden there were all these women and they were writing all these comments in, and I was like, wow, like, basically, I think people got really scared. They got stuck at home. They didn't have the distractions of everyday life that they normally did. And they could go out and they could, go away, and they could be with their friends, and they could get busy in work and just lose themselves, right, to all of the distractions of everyday life. And now they're stuck at home with their spouse and their kids, or just their spouse or their partner. And like, that was very challenging for people. And also this feeling of like, uh-oh, what if I get COVID? Not that different from my 9/11. This was their
Right.
catalyst. What if I get COVID? What if I die? I only have one life to live. What am I doing? I'm not happy. And then, I think also a lot of it is like getting the word out. So the more people that were on Instagram and talking about it, and the more accounts that popped up, and the more TikTok people that went on to talk about being out, the more women started hearing about this. And it was like, as they started to hear about it, they started to also connect to themselves more. So it just became this sort of domino effect of women, tons and tons of women coming out, really during COVID.
I got to tell you, this is the first time that in over almost 80 episodes that I get teary-eyed and emotional with a podcast. Yeah, this is the first time I'm feeling a knot in my throat. What you've made me realize is that it took me, I mean, coming out as trans, it took me also being in a life or death situation. It's like, why does it take life or death for you to be happy, for you to make that decision, And it was me dying from my disease, and I thought, I'm not gonna live the rest of my life in this body. I have to be myself. And it's the same thing with you with 9/11, the same thing that you tell me with the pandemic. It's like, what can we do to uplift people to be their greater self without it having to take death as the other option?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and that is absolutely what I am kind of on a mission to do, which is just,
You are.
yeah, I'm just out there to just say, hey, there is nothing wrong with you. You just might not be straight.
Yeah.
And that's okay,
Right.
and let's talk about it. Let's be curious about it, and just try to kind of get women to get out of this heteronormative, compulsory heterosexuality way of thinking about everything. And yeah, just break that box.
And break the box of having to fit the mold of society, like you said right now, heteronormative, like having to get married and having to have kids and having to do things in order, because you're really following societal orders rather than your own natural order.
Yes. And if you think about it, how long ago and how old these constructs are, the
Yeah.
heteronormativity and compulsory heterosexuality. And yeah, I mean, it's the minute you're born, depending on your genitals, boom, you're in the box. And once you're in
Right.
the box, you know what's expected of you. And then you get to be a really good people pleaser and make everybody around you happy by just not connecting to who you are, but doing all the things that you're supposed to do. And you know what you're supposed to do, and that feels safe.
Right.
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 But then you're not happy. And then you think there's something wrong with you. And so you start having anxiety, or you start using drugs, or you start having depression because you think there's something wrong with you when actually there's nothing wrong with you.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's just wild.
These are the incredible wise words of Samantha Fox. Samantha Fox, thanks so much for, I feel like I can continue talking. Thanks so much. Oh, look at your pooch. Hi, baby. What a cutie. Thanks so much for being on A Little Less Fear podcast, for being open and authentic and real and raw, and for coming out. And I really hope to, you know what, on in June, I have coming out episodes. Let me know if you would like to come out and tell your story again. Yeah, I love June coming out stories. They're really fascinating. Or if you know anybody that would like to come out on this show, please let me know. Send them my way. It's awesome following you on Instagram. Go ahead and tell our audience, our listeners, and our viewers how to find you.
Yeah. So first, I just want to say I have a free mini course available for anybody who feels like they are stuck in the box of compulsory heterosexuality and they want some help exiting it. And you can find that on my website, which is curiousquestioningandcomingout.com. And that one's free. You can also find me on TikTok at the just lesbian curiosity coach, and I am on Instagram at curious questioning coming out, no and I have programs to work one-on-one with women, and I also have group programs for women where you could be in community of women all going through similar things and work together to break out, be yourself.
Incredible. Thank you so much. You're the first sexuality coach that I have talking openly about this on the show. I really appreciate it. And I'm definitely going to keep sending people your way when I come across it. Thank you so much for being on A Little Less Fear podcast, and I hope you have a beautiful day.
Thanks so much, Lino. I really appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.